Hello and welcome back to the Brave Bear Show. I'm your host, Bernie Shung, and kicking off, excitingly, season 2 of the Brave Bear Show is our awesome, wonderful friend and returning expert, Corbie Mitleid. Welcome, Corbie.
Hi, darling. It is good to see you, and I'm so glad you got season 2 going with Brave Bear. It's way too important to just leave on the shelf.
Yeah, I agree. And I have a strong suspicion that we're going to talk quite a bit about kind of the evolution of where you and I both were back then versus how differently the world has changed now and the kind of work we're doing
5
today.
years. You and I met in 2015. Can you believe it?
Is that right? Holy.
Yes,
Okay, well, holy moly, we got a lot to catch up on.
we do. We do.
But that being said, for those who aren't quite familiar with you, obviously I mentioned you've been on the show before in season 1, but what's the most important thing you really want people to know in terms of who you are, how you got to do the work you do, and really how you are showing up today? So the floor is yours.
Okay. Um, I always ask the questions. People say, how did you get into psychic medium business? When I was 9, I read a book, and it was called The Witch Family by Eleanor Estes, and other kids would read it just, it's fairy tale, it's fiction, but there's something out there. There's some magic, and I want to see it. And from 9 years old, I looked for it. No, it doesn't run in my family. To this day, my brother still just says I'm an inspirational speaker because he will not admit I'm a psychic. But you have to look at them and say, thank you for sharing. You may think that if you wish. And if you know who you're supposed to be, don't doubt it. And don't let anybody else's idea or comfort level around it get in your way. Not your circus, not your monkeys. Truly, kids, it's not. I did not start out wanting to be a psychic medium full time, but this is where I've ended up for the last 20 years. And I loved it. And I've done good work in the world. And I have 3 books out, all of which Bernie was my editor for.
Yay.
I've got a YouTube channel going now and Patreon. And every day I get to get up, even in the pandemic, and say, oh boy, what am I going to get to do today? So it's so much more than just believe in yourself. You have to be a cheerful steamroller when somebody tries to stand in your way. That's key.
I love that. And because I know you personally, I've worked with you for quite some time now, I have a lot of different titles that I refer to you as if somebody's looking for a fill in the blank, right? So I know it's kind of hard to decide on that one thing because you're amazing at a lot of different things, but what's kind of your little quick elevator pitch if somebody asks you, well, what do you do?
Okay. I am your straight no chaser psychic. There is no fluffy bunny at my table. It's here are your opportunities. Here's the tough stuff. Here's your toolbox. Go rock and roll. Tarot is your everyday tour bus. Okay, God, you put me here. Now what? Past lives are my specialty. Could be that you've got a problem now that you can unscrew if you know why it came in from another past life. Yes, I talk to spirit guides and angels, and yes, I'm a medium, but I'm not. Dial a dead. If Aunt Mabel's on a field trip, she won't be by the phone. There you go. That's 30 seconds.
You got that nailed. I love it. Okay, so I wish I had a Corbie Mitleid when I first started. So I first started my journey briefly, 2008, life coaching, sick of the corporate world. You have a similar backstory as well. Fast forward just a few years later, all of a sudden I stumbled upon this world of, spirituality, which my foray into spirituality was Reiki. And I was a person receiving Reiki to heal the trauma and stress and depression and anxiety that I had at the time. Little did I know I'd fall so much in love with it and want to become a Reiki practitioner. Fast forward nearly a decade later, I'm doing a lot of other spiritual and intuitive work. Now, that being said, back then, I wish I would have had a go-to hub or resource like a Corbie Mitleid for all the things that you just rattled off before in your little, great elevator pitch. But the problem is not as many people are resourceful. And now we're living in the internet age, the world where you can find so much dubious information everywhere all the time.
Yes.
So the one big question I want to ask everybody who comes on season 2 this time around is, what is the one thing, one advice, or one piece of information you wish you knew when you first started that you would want to share with the world today?
God almighty. I hate to do it, but I'm going to go back to a line from, believe it or not, Ronald Reagan, trust but verify. It's why I wrote the book, The Psychic Yellow Brick Road. Good psychic guidance is an art, and too many people end up with a forgery. So whether you want to be an intuitive like we are, whether you want to go to an intuitive, there are certain rules you have to follow. Do your research. Just because your buddy says, Madam Twinklestar is a great psychic medium, please go check their, testimonials. Please see what her background is. Please get a couple of references. Because we no longer can do that, I'm in her presence, how do I feel about her energy kind of thing. You have to do it through the pixels. You have to do a little bit more deep dish work. On the other hand, there are a lot more choices out there. If you live in Des Moines and I'm here in upstate New York, you can still talk to me. So that's the thing. Be self-responsible. Check on teachers. Check on courses. Do not assume that a $1,000 course is 10 times better than a $100 course. Use your brain. Brains are not out the window in WikiWoo work. Truly, they're not.
I love that. I love that. It's so perfect because recently I've been seeing all over the web a lot of self-help, frauds or scams, right? And at first I was a little reluctant to click. It's clickbait, as we know, but many times there's validity to some of the concerns about watch out who you're following or who you're putting on a pedestal or who you're learning from, right? Because many times, as you just said, there might be someone who's making millions of dollars. They're all over stages. They're rubbing elbows with Tony Robbins and Oprah Winfrey and, President Obama or whatnot. And, immediately you think, okay, well, they must be credible. I must pay thousands to work with them. But like you said, what if we're not verifying the work they do? What if we're not really doing our research to see, is this somebody who aligns with what I want to do and how I want to show up in the world?
Yes.
Right?
And remember, people hire social media gurus to up their numbers. I know how good I am. I have clients all over the world who tell me how good I am. Yet, do I have the reality show yet? No, it's because I don't have big enough social media numbers. And some yuts who can pay somebody $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month to get them big numbers, they're the ones that the production companies are looking at. So just because somebody has a reality show doesn't mean they're fabulous.
Right. Right.
Some of us are just standard people that work, keep our noses to the grindstone.
I love it. And I think what I really love about that and why I started the Brave Bear show and, really what launched the Brave Bear show was the Brave Bear University. I really wanted to create a hub where I could bridge that gap between these emerging intuitives and spiritual newbies who really wanted access to brilliant people like you and like other people who've come on this show, but maybe they don't have, and it's not always just a financial limitation. Many times it's, I don't have time to sift through all this dubious information. I don't have time to sit in a 12-month apprenticeship with you in Bali. Like, I need some quick practical tips and tools today, right now, to get me going. And I might come back to Corbie 12 times a year, but I don't need to buy her 12-month plan right now, right?
No.
So go ahead.
The other thing is, take a look. Does the intuitive have some free stuff on there to help you learn? Okay. Yeah. Do I charge for what I do? Yes, ma'am, I do. But you go to my website, there are 150 different articles on there, and they're just yours for the asking. So it's the flip side of someone who says, if you don't read me for free, you're not very spiritual. No, I charge because you're getting my time and my energy and years of experience. But at the same time, I am happy to share with the world, because not everybody needs a reading. Not everybody needs to go to somebody else for their answers. You got a lot of stuff inside you, if you know how to tap it, that maybe you don't need to talk to me. And that's fine. That's fine. Not everybody needs to eat the same kind of cereal. Same thing.
Right. So quickly, where were some of the other resources that you had at the time? And I know you've been in the game for a while, so maybe the internet wasn't as prevalent back then, but
1973, honey. Are you
I
kidding?
was I was -3 years old at the time, but the reason I ask this is because I think there's still some parallels
Mhm.
then as they are now in the current state of
Mhm.
the economy and the world
Yes.
that we live in. So bringing it back to the basics, what are some resources, or if someone who's not, let's say, as resourceful, what are some of the first few places they should look at or do to at least start to find a Corbie
These
Mitleid
days,
somewhere? Yeah.
um, it doesn't hurt for you to Google what you're interested in. For instance, tarot. Learn tarot. You're going to get a lot of the ads, but at the top of the Google list, you may get people like Biddy Tarot, Biddy. She has made a specialty out of reading tarot. If you're looking on Best Psychic Directory, which is where I do a lot of my really fast 5-minute readings, because you don't necessarily need a half an hour, you got one question. They have people listed by specialty. You put past life, I'm the first one up there. Why? Because that is one of my strong specialties, and I was in Robert Schwartz's book series. So,
Could you tell us a little bit more about that, just for those who aren't familiar with Robert Schwartz?
oh, sure. Robert Schwartz wrote 2 brilliant books, Your Soul's Plan and Your Soul's Gift, which explain it's the basis life between lives and pre-birth planning. The idea that karma is not carrot and stick. Karma is 5 things: unbalanced energy, which is a neutral, healing, service, contrast, and healing of beliefs. When you realize all the stuff you came down here and you have been through was planned to help you grow, you feel less of a pity party, less of a victim. I mean, I'm a 3-time cancer dancer. That was part of my pre-birth plan. However, notice I don't say that I fought cancer, because what you fight fights back, and I'm not a survivor because I hang on by a lot more than teeth and toenails. So my attitude is a cancer dancer finds out how graceful they can be under pressure, avoids getting their toes stepped on, and gets off the dance floor in one piece. So the cancer adventures I went on are things that my soul wanted me to learn, based around the value of sexuality, the value of being in a woman's body, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's things like that. Also, look for what you love as you're learning to do this stuff. That's the most important thing. Spirit uses what we got. For me, 1 and 1 is 3 on alternate Tuesdays. You're not going to get me doing astrology with all the calculations. And a pendulum, I have a slight benign tremor in my hand, like my father had, which is why he was a cardiologist, not a surgeon. So I wouldn't necessarily trust what I get from a pendulum. I don't use a pendulum. But theater major at Brown University, acted in New York, a storyteller and an author, and I love history. You put those together, and for me, getting people's past lives is not just, I see a big hat and a long skirt, it's old-fashioned, but I can say, hobble skirt, picture hat, that kind of ostrich feather, we're looking at 1912. So when you know what you're good at, Spirit will help lead you to the information that you're going to need to really up your game in that way. And that is when the internet really comes in, because you won't just stare at everything like you've just walked into Disney World. You'll know, I want to go over to this ride and I want to go down this road.
I love what you just said about being able to take all of your experiences and knowledge and talents and skills and kind of create your own little package of how you show up in the world and kind of work you want to do. Because I've
Yes.
worked with so many people at the beginning who say, well, I like all these different things. They don't seem to connect or have, there's no parallel. There's nothing weaving them together. So I don't know which path to take. Therefore, I'm just going to be overwhelmed and not take a path at all. Right. So I love how you were able to do that. Was that innate? Was it natural from the get-go? Did it take time for you
I,
to kind of figure it out?
I've had such a checkered career. I had to do it that way. Actress, author, inspirational speaker, legal assistant, video producer, executive recruiter, and a psychic. Hello. Now,
Hello, it totally makes sense.
yes. So I have no compunctions about pulling from my left brain if it's going to help you. I do what I do not so you will be amazed by my wiki woo. I'm here in service. So for instance, yes, I'm a certified professional tarot reader. I've been reading tarot for, good Lord, 45 years. And yet, if you ask me about business, career, Yes, I'm going to pull from my executive recruiter experience. That means that when I do a card spread, I will know the certain things to ask. For instance, my entrepreneur spread, some people would do 4 cards and go, wait until January and fire the redhead. Nah. Me, I'm going to say, you, the energy around the business, the brick and mortar location you need to look for, how to market it, clients, competition, staff, finances, politics, so that you get all of these juicy pieces to work with, and you can go out with a rocket on your back and make it work. It's one of the reasons I hate yes or no questions.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you giving your power over to the intuitive? If you say, will my business be a success? The unscrupulous people in the world will go, oh no, I'm sorry, I don't see any success, but I have a magic candle, $6,000, and you will make money in a month. If it sounds too good to be true, my darlings, it is.
I think if we could digress for a second, I think that is so important what you just said right there, because I'm hearing 2 things. One thing you're saying is we're all intuitive, but many times we just need clarity from kind of an objective source outside of us just to validate us. But the second thing you're saying is just it's like to stop waiting for the answers to come from outside of you, and that way we get taken by a charlatan, right? who wants to upsell us on crap that they probably are just making up, and we probably had the right gut instinct to begin with. So can you kind of take us down that road? Because I know that happens quite a bit.
It does. And it's one of the reasons when somebody sits in front of me and says, oh, I don't know, just tell me anything you see. You know, your life is like this big, and I'm New York, I talk fast, but even in a half an hour, if I only get to here and what you want is down here, you go, oh, she was lousy, she didn't tell me anything. So you got to
she didn't read my mind. Right.
So you have to know what you want to know, because that will also help you choose the right intuitive. For instance, if you have a watch that belonged to your great-grandfather and you never met him, but you want to know what he's like, I don't do psychometry. That's getting the energy off stuff. But if you want to know why, even with short hair, you panic when you get wet hair in your face, then that's a past life thing, and then you do come to me. So it is important that you allow yourself to want to know things and to find out how to ask the empowering questions. We are all wired like the same house plan. We are. You can do what I do. You can do what Bernie does. It's just a matter of learning how to do it, wanting to do it enough, and treating it seriously, taking your notes, keeping your journals. Okay? Please do not look at us like, our aura don't stink. That's not how it is. Yeah, I'm funny. You know I'm funny. That's another thing. Just because I make people laugh doesn't mean my work isn't serious. Right. When people laugh, they relax, the shields come down, and the information goes right in.
And I think one of the other important things too to remember is many times we as consumers or audience members in any community, we're looking for somebody that we can relate to, right? Somebody who's maybe just a little bit ahead of us in experience in that particular skill that we're trying to level up, but they're not so far up or even put on a pedestal where it's like, I can't touch that. Right? That's perfection or that's unreachable. So I love that you have this ability to be very natural, very authentic, very relatable, very real talk. Like I feel like I'm just always having a conversation over coffee or tea with you anytime we've ever worked together and anytime I've ever talked to you over the internet like this. So I think it's important for people to find somebody who, really resonate with who you are and your values and kind of how you want to show up in the world. Because I think the how is huge, because let's say I want to go and, level up my business and do better marketing, but I go and find somebody who teaches me an internet, launch formula that marketers use that are very successful that could get me $1 million overnight. But I take advantage of people in the process of using that formula, right? Sure, I was successful financially. Sure, I made it happen. Sure, the plan was effective, but did that feel good in my gut? Right?
And you have to remember, mentor, not guru. You want to find someone who wants you to be successful, whose own self-aggrandizement is not keyed to your always being a little less than they are. And the attitude of the teacher is simpatico. If you are someone who really likes what I call the glurpy purple with angel stuff, which has its place, I am probably not your teacher, because While I am half Wayne Dyer, I'm half Swami Beyond Ananda. Funny as hell, normal enough you could borrow my lawnmower. So I'm not going to coddle you. All right. If you want a teacher that will push you to be the best you can, then you will be comfortable with me. And that's one of the things we all have to learn. We're not everybody's reader. We're not everybody's teacher. And it's no reflection on us or them. It's
Right.
simply the energy,
Right.
you know?
Finding what aligns with you.
Honda versus Subaru. They're both cars, but I don't like sitting in a Honda. It's uncomfortable. So I get a Subaru.
And it's expensive to fix. I used to have one. Okay.
Mm.
I know you're going to share a mini lesson with us shortly, but before we get started, I always have to bring up the story because I think this could be really important for the audience. I may or may not have shared it with them on the show before, but I remember one night many years ago when I was still early on in the intuitive channeling process, and there was one night I couldn't sleep because I was so excited about what I've learned about how to connect more to what I
Yes.
always call my spirit team, or my own divine wisdom is how I kind of refer to it now. But one night I just remember thinking to myself, gosh, I really wish I could be like those mediums, those psychic mediums on those reality shows. And I want to be able to connect just like that, right? And I want to be able to see spirit, hear spirit, and be on the stage. And so, I kind of had this like little fantastical, daydream before bed.
Yeah.
Well, that night, I don't even
Yes.
remember what time it was, 2 or 3 in the morning, wake up in the middle of the night, eyes just straight open. I can't see with my eye anything in the room, but
Which is
all of a
amazing.
sudden the air felt dense, and
Yes.
all of a sudden I just I sensed something present, and it felt dark. I was immediately scared. I wasn't felt, I didn't feel enveloped with love or warmth. And it was just the strangest feeling. I felt like, okay, am I really awake? Pinched myself. Oh yeah, I'm really awake. But why do I feel so frozen right now? So I pulled the covers over my head literally, and I said out
A
loud,
lot of people do that.
I don't want this gift. I don't want, it was like Sixth Sense. I was like, kid, I don't want this gift. I don't want this gift. Just, get away, leave me alone. I don't want this gift. And I eventually did fall asleep. But the next day I contacted you. And what did you tell me?
Did I tell you?
Well, I'll briefly tell you what you told me, and then you can kind of elaborate on that. But you
Okay.
basically said, if you open yourself to the opportunity to talk to the spirit world, and you're not definitive about what you want to come through, you're an open portal for anything to come through.
Oh, okay. Yes. Now I remember. My usual way of explaining that is you must know how to ground center and shield. Because if you don't, and you're just playing with a Ouija board and you say, who's there? That is the equivalent of opening your door in a strange neighborhood yelling free beer. You don't know who's out there, but they heard you when they're coming. So yes, this is like, wow, I've always loved cars, so I'm just going to walk onto the Indianapolis 500 Speedway and get in one. No.
That's what it felt
like. Because when you know how to ground center and shield, when you do have your spirit band or your guardians or whatever, they will help you differentiate between want to talk to this one and get it out the window, and keep the lousy stuff away from you for the most part. Because you are going to be eventually working, if you're a psychic medium, with energies you don't know. Somebody comes to me and wants to talk to their dead Aunt Mabel. I never met Mabel. I don't know what's going to come through. But if I know that my guides have my back, her guides have her back, they're not going to let in something like I had to handle on a Ouija board for teenagers once, which was spelled fast backwards, I have an axe and I'm here to kill you. It wasn't their Uncle Danny.
Right.
So
right.
That's why, guys, we want you as part of this field. We do. I'm 65. I'm getting old. But you have to protect yourself so that you don't let anything nasty into the world and you don't get Velcroed to something nasty either.
Right. And had I not had a resource like you, I'd probably still be going to sleep with the covers over my head. From that day on, after the technique and skills and the resources you shared with me, I haven't had that experience ever again. Now I am more intuitively connected, and I am speaking to, my divine and spirit team quite often, and it doesn't feel scary. Now I do feel enveloped with love and wisdom and a lot of light and a lot of if the best way to explain it for those who've never had this experience before, you just feel comforted, you feel validated, you feel like you just got a hug from a good friend who just told you a great story. And so that's how I want to feel. but had I not, gotten that information from you, I think it would have been different. So yes, everybody, please be careful about who you well, first of all, who you follow, who you look up to, who you look to for information. But then when you start applying the things that you learn, also be very careful and always protect yourself. I think that's the biggest thing that I learned early on in the process.
The
So,
other thing is, if your teacher doesn't like questions, leave.
mm,
Leave.
mm,
If, well, why did you decide to do this? You will learn later. No, tell me why, because I'm trying to learn here.
right.
That's a difference, again, between a mentor and a guru. You never question a guru. Mentors welcome questions like any
Mm,
good college professor.
right. And we've seen in the news what has happened to a lot of gurus who've
Mhm,
fallen off the face of the earth for various reasons, and we won't say why here because now we're out of time. So,
mhm.
so thank you for that, Corbie. You're always so insightful, and you've been doing this a long time, and I think that's why it's kind of like you have this catalog of knowledge to just pull out that thing whenever somebody asks that question, and I know it's not just an overnight thing. You acquired that because you actually went and applied all the things you've learned over the decades, and now you're easily able to share that with the world. So thank you for
Thank
that.
you.
All right. So that being said, you guys, we're moving on to the lesson. So I ask experts to come on the show. Not only do we talk to them about topics that are important for business life and spiritual and intuitive development, but we also want to have you learn something so that you can apply it right away to your life and see if that works for you. And why not have a free lesson to go with it? So Corbie, what have you prepared for us today?
Um, Questions are good things. That's simple. What I learned at a place called the Option Institute, which was around for, 30 some years, is there are three questions you always ask yourself in any situation. What am I X about? X can be afraid, upset, happy, curious, etc. Why am I X about that? And then if you want to change, the simple question nobody ever asks is, what do I think would happen if I stopped being X about that? All right, let's look at the whole pandemic thing, okay?
Yeah.
For years, I was a road warrior. My late buddy, Allie Cheslick, used to call me the Travel Channel because I was on the road 45 weekends a year. Yet, about 2 years ago, the universe started moving me off the road, and I didn't like it. Um, a lot of shows just tanked. One particular promoter thought that I had crossed a line, which I did not. I would never tell somebody that their younger child is going to kill their older child. Come on, get real. But she had heard that gossip, and so boom, I was out of 10 shows right there. And last year, still on the road, I got a herniated disc and pinched nerves. And while I'm healed from that, the doctor said, you are not going to be a road warrior anymore. You cannot be in the car for more than 2 hours, and you can't do the load in and the load out. So I said, what am I upset about? I'm off the road. Why am I upset about that? Because that's how I made my income. What do I think would happen if I stopped being upset about that? Well, my mind would clear and I'd find other roads. And so now, during the lockdown, when all the shows are canceled and nobody's doing that, my business had already morphed to completely online. So when you get something that looks like it really sucks rocks, ask yourself, what do I think would happen if I stopped being upset about this? How can I take what I'm good at and make it what in executive recruiting talk is a transferable skill? What do I love to do? I love lecturing. How am I doing that now? I'm on YouTube and I'm doing videos. No, I don't have the immediate audience, but it's getting out there. I love it when people say, I love your work. How can I support you? I have Patreon. That's how you can support me now. And people get, their tiers and they get perks. So when things look like they're going off a cliff, you can be the road runner. You don't have to be Wile E. Coyote stuck with an anvil. There is always a way to re-engineer things if you think outside the box. The key is don't be afraid. Because
that's a big ask to not be afraid, because we're afraid all the time.
Fear freezes you. But I always talk about fear versus fame. In fact, there's a YouTube video around the coronavirus like that. Fear equals false evidence appearing real. Fame equals full acceptance means everything. When you accept that this is where you are, that's fine. I'm not going to fight it. This is, I'm in the middle of Des Moines and I wanted to be in Chicago. What can I do in Des Moines? Yeah, everybody in Des Moines is going to think I have this thing against Des Moines. I don't. It's just an
example, guys.
Yes. And that's what we all have to do right now. When in doubt, punt. When in doubt, see what else you can do. It's one of the things that I've put together. One of my consultations is called your sentence of passion. Your sentence of passion is your rallying cry. It's not your job. It's your vapor trail. Mine is cross the bridge from fear to fearlessness and fly. When I can help somebody go from point A to point B when they thought they couldn't make it, I'm living my bliss. And that informs itself through every single consultation that I do, every encounter that I make, every coaching session. Because when you're fearless, when you realize you can't make a mistake is only a rerouted opportunity, then you reach out. You're not frozen. That's key.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we do get frozen because we are paralyzed with the what ifs and the inner chatter of what's to come and what we don't want to come. Right. So what gets us out of that place of the racing thoughts?
Present moment. What am I doing right now? Yes, you can do a vision board. One of the things that I have for me as a reminder is a massive poster above my desk with the Wizard's Oath from the Young Wizard series, Diane Duane, which reminds me why I do the work. When you accept that whatever you're doing is important to the world, I don't care if you are a psychic medium, I don't care if you're a writer, I don't care if you feed people in a cafeteria. You have the opportunity at that point to change someone's life, even if it's just handing over the slice of pizza, looking him in the eyes and contacting. And you can't be afraid to do that. Okay? Fear gets in the way of so much glory in everybody's life. Kick it to the curb.
Mm. And your 3 questions, I think, is also such a good tool to use too. I mean, if sometimes it's hard for us to get into that headspace, but like you said, be present. And what you do in that present moment will really help you to be productive. And I think that the 3 questions that you say to ask yourself are very productive and constructive ways to process that negative inner chatter that often paralyzes us. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. In fact, it's one of the things that I teach mothers who are not getting along with their little kids. If the kid comes home and says it was a lousy day at school, the mother generally says, no, it shouldn't have been, blah, blah, blah. She tries the first question, why was it lousy? Because of this. And then she might correct him. But if she says, what do you think would happen if you stopped looking at it as lousy? All of a sudden, you're giving the kid new synapses, new neurons. You're finding out why the kid thought it was awful and what the kid can do themselves to change it. 3 questions are magic anywhere you put them.
That's awesome. And we all probably can use it during this pandemic. Every single day I might have a different answer to those questions, right?
Of course. No, there is no one set answer book. It'll change according to circumstance and time. And that's okay. We change. What doesn't change dies. That's nature.
Yeah. And the cool thing about having worked with you over the past few years, actually seeing you in real time take that leap from being a road warrior, the Travel Channel,
Hmm.
to being more present online, which I know you had been doing, but you really evolved it where you became more prevalent online than you were in person.
Hmm.
And then all
I
of a
have to
sudden
let go of the age thing. Boy, did I. I don't look like I did when I was 45, kids, and I
Hey,
never
you
will.
look amazing. You look amazing. So don't even. Um, but then to edit the book with you, and then the pandemic happened,
Hmm.
literally as you and I were putting finishing touches on it.
Hmm.
I can't tell you enough how already as I was reading the book, I'm like, this is going to be great. This is going to be great for anybody who wants to be a new exhibitor. This is awesome. This is awesome. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden towards the end, I'm like, oh, and she evolved into a more online presence. And oh, now we're in this current pandemic. And wow, it's almost as
Hmm.
if, well, I'm not going to say it's almost as if you were psychic, but I mean, you were, right? You got, I think you probably got the hint from the universe and you started to accept it, would you say? And then,
Yeah, I love teaching this as a 6-hour intensive, but while people kept saying, "Oh, this is great, I would love it," blah blah blah, nobody would show up for the class. So finally, the universe said, "Will you publish the book already?" And we did. And yes, it's true that now we're all on the benches. We're not doing shows, but in Ralph Bloom's book, The Book of Runes, one of the quotes is, "When you can't go out fishing, you mend your nets." So you can
mm,
get that book and decide, when we come back on the road, what am I going to do? It also gives you thoughts about other parts of your business. There was one book out there on, your spiritual business, which is no longer published, but it was much more a business book that had trappings of WikiWoo. This is specific for those of us that do this work. And as of this week, it's not only Kindle, but it's now a paperback for all of you that says, "But I want to hold it and highlight it."
well, look at the timing of that. So,
Yes. Yes.
well, we're going to be closing up soon anyway, but tell people about the book a little bit and where they can find it. And then after that, just go ahead and close up with anything you want to talk about, what you're working on, and how else
Okay.
people can work with you and find your work.
Wonderful. All right. The book is called "You've Got the Magic, Who Needs a Genie?" And it is everything I learned from being 18 years on the road. It starts, how to choose the shows, how to dress, how to front person, your booth, but it also teaches you all of the intangible stuff, how to network, how to take care of yourself, how to take care of your clients. And I've also put in there lots of forms so that you can see how this is doing. And there are several sections in there that we called Corbie Gets Candid. That was Bernie's idea of what to title it, where I tell you some of those there we were stories about being on the road. It is, here's everything I know. I'm off the road now. Go be the next A-lister. And it was a joy to write. So there's that. There's the Psychic Yellow Brick Road, especially if you want to use a psychic or you're just coming into being a psychic, it will help you there. And for all the usual pandemic life questions, there's the original book, which is called Clean Out Your Life Closet: Clarity, Adaptability, Simplicity, and Making Friends with Stress. So I'm all over
You can't just
Amazon book
stop there. You've
lists.
got to tell us a little bit more about Clean Out Your Life Closet. That was
Okay,
the first in the series.
that
So,
was that was our first one. All right, very briefly. We all buy self-help books. We just do. And they have the sexy titles and the great cover, and we take them home and we start reading them, and it's like, she says I have to be vegan and go to the gym and meditate. I'm in upstate New York with a farm. I'm not going to do that. So the whole point of Clean Out Your Life Closet is, my chapter is, here's some of the stupid things I did. Here's a client example, and here's some things to think about. But at the end of each chapter, you have open-ended questions where you can take what I wrote and make it fit your life. So by the end of the book, if you do all those questions, your friend Sue will read a different book than you did, even if you both get your copies at the same time. It becomes your own personal self-help journal. So,
hello. What were we just talking about all day today to the Brave Bear community?
yes, ma'am, we were. So,
No, that's awesome. So I'll make sure I include all of the links
thank
to
you.
the books, but they can be found on Amazon. And
They
also the
can.
best place to always go to is to Corbie's website, which we'll share in a bit too, because Corbie has all of her goods that you can find, you know, from the readings to the books and all the other great stuff that she's working on. We'll also include that there. But Corbie, you know, to close up here, what are you currently working on right now, and how can people find you? And what do you think the best place is to start? Because obviously there's so much that you can offer our community.
Okay. What I'm working on right now, I'm populating the YouTube channel. We're working on at least 2 videos a month, one that's a teaching thing, or a philosophy blog, and the other is a meditation. I have a wonderful new video goddess, Jenna Dern, and when I was interviewing her, it was, "Are you familiar with my kind of stuff?" She said, "Oh, my grandmother collects tarot cards." She's so excited. So fine, she's great. And the other thing is Patreon. What is Patreon? Patreon is a way for you to support my work and get perks while you do it. Everywhere from like $2 a month to $100 a month. One person is doing that, and there are all kinds of special personal things that I'm doing for her, free soul plane reading, things like that. So we'll have those links. And if you want to just start working with me, go to my website, do what I told you, read the testimonials first, and then read through the list of what I do and choose what resonates for you. I generally say general reading is good first. Don't spend more money than you need. I tend to downsell rather than upsell. You don't need a soul plane reading if all you need is, you know, does Bruce love me and how's my career?
Right.
Take care of yourself first.
Right. Gosh, you're amazing. I can't wait. I can't wait for the channel to be completely up and running. I know I've been asking you for months now. I'm like, when are you ever going to
It's
do
up
some kind of a,
there. It's
well, I
up
mean, you know what I
there.
mean. I mean, like
Yes.
growing it
Yes.
more. Because I was used to the readings. I was working with you on the books, but I'm like, Corbie, we need to learn from you. Where's your other stuff? I need to learn from you. So
There you go.
I'm glad that you're doing a lot more of that. So we'll make sure to include not only the books, but then also the YouTube channel, how you can get involved as a Corbie Mitleid Patreon member, and we'll make sure to include CorbieMitleid.com links. But Corbie, anything else you want to say before we head out here?
Bernie is wonderful. Seriously, for everybody who's watching, without Bernie, my books would not have been a tenth as good as they were. If you're going to find an editor for whatever you're writing, and I know there are some people out there who are doing writing stuff, make sure that you find an editor who, as well as being sharp, understands their job is to help streamline your words without changing your voice. That's a tough one to find. I was lucky with Bernie.
Thank you. Oh,
You're welcome, darling.
honored to work with you. All right, guys. Well, that's it. That's it for our first episode of season 2 of the Brave Bear
Season
Show.
2.
Season
Wow.
2. If you missed the first season where we had Corbie, we'll make sure to also include that link at the bottom of the show notes. But Corbie, thank you so much for joining us today. And I feel like there's probably going to be a season 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. And I
Yes.
want you back
Yes.
every time. Okay?
I'm there, baby.
All
All
right.
right.
Well, that's it for this episode of the Brave Bear Show. We'll see you next time.